Welcome, Hayden here to explain a guide to get fast and be more consistent with your sim racing. So you just got a new racing game and you found your favourite car and you want to be faster. But once you do a couple hot laps you find yourself messing up and then seeing the time difference between you and the top time on the leaderboard. To improve your driving and decrease that gap, I will be explaining setups, racing line, braking and accelerating. Let's decrease that gap. First, setups are a very useful tool in gaining lap time and making the car feel comfortable to drive. Most sim games have a stable and loose setup. Stable setups make the car stable and easy to drive, but is slower and creates more understeer. Loose setups make the car harder to drive as it creates more oversteer. This can decrease times but at the risk of spinning the car. I suggest first using the stable setup, and once you gain more experience with the car, move to the loose setup. If you'd like to get more advanced in your setup, this diagram from RacingSimTools explains what to change in different situations. The racing line on a track is the most important thing to know to be able to perform fast lap times. If you are always making corners too tight for yourself or running too wide, you will be holding back your lap times. Generally you want to be turning as little as possible throughout the lap, and you want to have the shortest route possible around the track. And when I say the shortest route possible, I don't mean that you should always drive on the inside of the track, because you'll be making corners too tight for yourself and losing even more time. Most of the time you will be wanting to start your car positioned as far as on the outside as possible. You will then want to make your way to the apex of the corner, which is right on the inside of the corner as seen on the graphic here. Once reaching the apex, you will continue driving out of the corner and end up back on the outside of the track. This is using as much of the given track space as possible to get through the corner fast. Sometimes when learning the racing line of a track, you will have to keep in mind not just the corner in front of you, but also be aware if there's another corner that follows right after, then you might have to adjust the way you take the first corner so that you have a good line for the second corner. Here's another graphic to show you how you could change your line in this situation. If you are really struggling to learn the racing line, then most games will have a virtual racing line so that you can activate to make things easier if you're starting off. Some of these virtual racing lines even suggest where you should be braking. This leads to the next part of the video. Braking is obviously how you get the car slowed down, but there are a few ways to doing it. Trail braking is the best way to get the car slowed down and get it around the corner without understeer. As you come to the corner, you push hard on the brakes, and as you get close to the apex, you slowly release the brakes, allowing the weight to move to the front of the car, therefore generating a bit more front grip. This is an example without trail braking. This is with trail braking. As you can see, it's much easier to lock up the brakes and go straight on without trail braking. Braking points are essential to braking late as possible, but in some cases braking as late as you can compromise your entry into the next corner, as seen here at Paul Ricard. Some cars have ABS and some don't, and cars without it, you need to be very gentle on the brakes. Usually you can press down pretty hard on the brakes while in a straight line, but as soon as you start turning with the brakes on, then you have a problem. The front tire of the side of the car you are turning is most likely to lock up if you're braking too hard while turning. Locking up damages your tires and heats them right up. So when you are braking and turning at all in a non-ABS car, then make sure your pedal inputs are very little. Another key part of achieving lap times is where and how you accelerate. In most vehicles, it's a bad idea to just plant your foot to the floor when coming out of a corner, because you'll likely spin the rear wheels and flip the rear end of the car out. If you are coming out of a sweeping corner like this, then you'll want to gradually ease the throttle on to prevent ruining your run out of the corner. Once you straighten the car up, it's usually then safe to fully accelerate again. Some cars have traction control and some don't. Those without traction control take more practice to get right. You have to balance the throttle on the edge of grip and oversteer for a good exit. This mainly goes for rear wheel drive cars, but when it comes to front wheel drive, then we have a problem with understeering when accelerating too much out of a corner. In these cars, in a similar way to rear wheel drive cars, you want to find the point that causes the wheels to spin. When you find this point, you must practice keeping your throttle inputs just enough to keep the driven wheels gripping. In most situations, you need to begin accelerating at or just after the apex of the corner. It should become a habit that over time you will know exactly what point you can put your foot flat and won't run too wide at the exit of the corner and go off track. Using setups, knowing the racing line, trail braking and accelerating are all key things to get right for a quick lap. Now it's your time to give it a go. Thanks for watching and let us know if this video helped in the comments.